Hi everyone! Welcome to another doll video. It's been a while. 5 whole months, or 3 if you count the collection video. As you can see from the title, I am once again making a doll of one of my characters. I have already made Bonnie and Elsa, and in this one I'm making Cat. I wanted to make her for a while and finally found the motivation to do it. As per usual, I'm gonna explain my process and everything, but I am not a professional. Some of my methods are lazy, I use a lot of cheaper materials, though I am evolving a little bit. Just keep that in mind if you watch this as a tutorial type of thing. Once again, I'm using a G3 Monster High doll for this. I love their proportions, articulation, and body variety. The last one is especially important to me because I like to give my characters different body types. For Cat, the most fitting base is Catty. She has the plus-sized body, her face sculpt is very fitting as well, so she was an obvious choice. I am using the Hollywood Secrets Catty specifically. I found her on sale, and I already have the core Catty and I wanted new pieces. Now let's turn Catty into Cat. First step for me is always removing the hair. There are a few ways to do it. I used the boiling method this time. First, cut the hair as short as possible. This doll has poly hair, so it's not a huge loss. She kinda rocks the buzz cut though, I'm not gonna lie. Then put the doll in hot water for a good few minutes so the head softens. Carefully pull the head off. Be careful, it's very easy to break the neck and hard to fix it. Then scrape the remaining hair out through the neck hole, and you're done. Just put the head back on later. If I feel too lazy to heat up water, I just cut the doll's head open with a craft knife, scrape the hair out that way, then just superglue the head shut. That also works, unless you're rerouting later. I imagine that would cause some problems. I am not putting the head back on yet, there's more to do with it. Despite her name, Cat is indeed a human and has human ears, so I have to cut Catty's ears off, as much as it pains me. There were holes left behind and I just filled them in with some hot glue. It's not the cleanest, but it's not gonna be visible in the end anyway. Next, I sculpted her new ears. I'm using air dry clay for that. I actually found this brand new unopened one in my stash that I completely forgot about. That was fun. First, I poked some pins into the doll's head so the clay has something to hold on to. The little tufts of fur were actually really helpful because they're placed right where ears would be, so I just used them as a guide. I have a different doll next to me for reference. I want this to be somewhat proportionate with other Monster High dolls. I really love the big ears in this generation. They're so fun. Mine are not as detailed though. I ended up recreating the general shape of the ear. I'm not very good when it comes to sculpting organic shapes and making them symmetrical. At the end, I also pressed some pearls into the clay for earrings. It will leave a perfect dent and I can just glue them back on later. Overall, the ears didn't turn out too bad, just don't look at them too closely. While that's hardening, I move on to the outfit. Cat's style is coquette. She wears light pink, white, lots of bows and lace. Very cute and feminine stuff, pretty much. I have drawn her in a variety of different outfits over the years, but this specific drawing spoke to me, and that's going to be my main reference. I'm not going to exactly replicate it, but that's basically what I'm going for. The outfit came together easily, and I was even able to film it for once. First, I wanted to make her a simple over-the-shoulder top. I'm using these light pink ties that have the school texture on them, perfect for Cat. I got a little lazy with the clothing. I did not make any patterns like I usually would, instead I just kinda placed the doll on the fabric and sewed around it. I actually really like using ties for doll clothing. They're super stretchy, and I usually don't need a lot of fabric for one piece, so it works out well. I don't even make patterns for it most of the time. It can be tricky with all the body types these dolls have. Speaking of which, a lot of people hated Catty's body type. Me personally, I've always been on board with it. I love it. I think it looks great and gives her so much character. She's so nice to hold. It's great to have that representation as well. That's what Monster High is all about. And obviously it's great for customizing. Though I feel like the people at Mattel have no clue how to dress this body type, if that makes sense. We've gotten 3 Catty dolls with this body so far, and I feel like the outfits are not very flattering. And the body is not the problem. I have seen so many different restyles of her, and literally every single one looks amazing. I hope she gets better fashion in the future. But back to the shirt, you can kind of see what I'm doing. I cut out a rectangle wide enough, trim it to size, trace around the doll for the sleeves, hem the edges of the sleeves and the neckline, sew the side seams, hem the bottom, or just stretch the bottom so it curls in on itself. That also works. It turned out a bit too baggy at first, so I went back and took the waist in a little bit. Because the neckline is wide and the fabric is stretchy, I don't add any openings or velcro. The top is super easy to put on, both head first and legs first. Off camera I cinched the middle to give it a little more shape, and that's it. The neckline turned out much wider than I planned, but Cat wears tops like this too, so it works. It only took me about 30 minutes to make. Next I made her shorts in a similar fashion. Just wrap the fabric around the doll, trim it, stitch it, add the middle seam in the most grotesque way possible, hem the edges of the pant legs. They were sticking out in the back, so I just did a quick gathering stitch to fix that. It was supposed to be a quick and lazy fix, but I actually really like how it looks. Then as a last touch I added a teeny tiny bow to the front. The shorts took me about 10 minutes to make. Lastly, I made her some tights. I was actually toying with the idea of leaving the legs unpainted at first and pretending that it's the tights, but Cat does not wear colors like that, so it doesn't really fit. I did make patterns for these though. I traced the legs on paper, cut it out of fabric, sewed it, turned it inside out, and that's it. I don't connect them, instead I just tuck them into the shorts. Like I said, lazy methods. It looks nice, so I'm good with it. That's it for the clothes. Got off easy this time. Then I decided to put the head back on, and that did not go very smoothly. First I popped the pearls over the ears, then as I was putting the head back on, they got shifted around. I expected that, but for some reason I didn't realize how much room the pins are going to take up inside the head. The neck pack just kept pushing them out, obviously, because there's not much space in there. Anyway, I trimmed most of it off and that worked. Plus, that makes removing the head much easier. Once that was done, I went ahead and sprayed the doll with some Mr. Super Clear to prepare her for painting. Told you, I'm evolving. Be careful if you use MSC, don't spray it inside, don't breathe it in, wear a filtration mask, or just don't use it. For painting, I mainly use Ardex acrylic markers. I have multiple reviews of them on my channel, and I absolutely love using them in crafting and especially doll customizing. Most of my customs were done without MSC, and the paint holds up pretty well. Obviously I have to be delicate and careful when handling them, but I haven't had too many problems so far. I start by repainting the body. Before that though, I switched out Carrie's clawed hands for regular ones. To save time and materials, I will only paint the visible parts. The head, obviously, chest and shoulders, wrists, the belly, and legs. Repainting a doll's body is always a big challenge. It's easy to scratch the paint, it's a lot of work to do, and depending on the colors you're working with, it can take a lot of layering. Then later it's a question of how well the paint holds up, especially around the joints. I usually just pose my customs, maybe touch up the paint quickly and just leave them like that, I'm not gonna lie. I try not to mess with them too much. Besides acrylic markers, you can also use watered down acrylic paint and a brush, soft pastels, an airbrush, fabric dye, I'm pretty sure. I've seen people do that too. Just take your time and try to keep the layers thin. For this custom I had to do 3 layers for the most part, the legs took a little extra. I also sprayed the doll a few times with MSC between the layers to seal it and protect it. That will also make repainting the face easier later. Unfortunately, I couldn't film this part fully because I broke my phone stand in the process, so enjoy these little pieces of footage. Thank you. Then I tried to add some more details to her body, painted the palms a lighter color, tried to add blush with pastels, but they didn't show up, like, at all, so screw that. I also painted her scalp black to prepare for the hair later. Then I sprayed her one more time to seal everything, and now let's get to my favorite step, the face up. For her face, I used acrylic markers from Ardex once again, and colored pencils, also from Ardex, a little bit. I was pretty heavy-handed this time around, and I couldn't see what I was doing super well. There was a lot of going back and forth, touching things up, or covering them, or changing plans. It was a little rough. Carrie's features fit Cat pretty well. The round cheeks, the big eyes. The lips are almost perfect. Cat just doesn't have a prominent cupid's bow. The only thing that's not accurate is the nose, unfortunately. Cat's nose is wider, but Catty is the best match in terms of everything else, so I'm gonna have to roll with it. It's not a perfect match, but convincing enough in the end. I gave her some styled baby hairs, she always styles them. The lips were a bit of a challenge in terms of colors. I had to try out multiple different markers and pencils before I got the colors I needed. I didn't want the bottom lip to be too bright, if that makes sense. The eyes were simple in terms of coloring, but I had to do some fixing to get them as symmetrical as possible, especially on her right eye, and I was just pretty heavy-handed, like I said. I added some light shading, a little bit of highlights, tried to give her some freckles, but they're not super noticeable. Her beauty mark, of course, can't forget that, and after about 25 minutes, I was done. Sprayed the face one last time so it's nice and sealed. It's not perfect, some parts could be better, but it looks like cat. We're getting closer to finishing, just the hair and accessories left. For the hair I'm using yarn, as I often do, but instead of making wefts, I'm just hot gluing the yarn on, just the way it is. I wasn't able to film this part, so I hope some photos help. Since I'm doing a half up, half down, I don't have to cover the entire head. For the ponytail part, I only add yarn around the hairline and leave everything else alone. This way I'll have a nice slick ponytail that's not too thick. That also works when you do wefts or reroot the hair. If you just fill the entire head, then do a ponytail, it's going to be too bulky. For the lower half, I just did a few rows of yarn until I was satisfied with the thickness. Afterwards, I painted over the hot glue one more time, just so it looks cleaner, then pulled the top half into a ponytail. From there, I just trimmed everything, added a few beads. If you want to, you can also unravel the yarn and braid it. I did it with my second Claudia, and it looks really good, but it takes forever. For Cat, I decided to just leave the yarn the way it is. It's black, and it's impossible to see the difference anyway, so... And lastly, I added two little curly pieces near her ears, both to look cute and to kind of hide the imperfections in my sculpting. I used clear glue for this though, so it's cleaner. That's it for the hair, now let's just go over the accessories. For shoes, I'm using ones that came with a base doll, I'm just gonna repaint them. Same with this bag from Midnight Masquerade Claudine. Again, I simply just repainted it. I also found this stupid looking cat in my stash. I have zero clue where I got it from, but he perfectly fits into the bag, so I have to use him. I'm also gonna use the bracelets that came with the base doll, no modifications needed. And I wanna give her some extra stuff too. She needs some food and coffee. It has to do with her lore. I'm still working on a video about that, so it might not make too much sense now, but it's fine. First, she's getting a little salmon bagel. It's from Miniverse, if I remember correctly. Next is a strawberry dessert. I do not remember where I got it from. I've had it for years, probably. And for her coffee, I'm just using the simple cup that came with Diamante from Rainbow High. And that's it! Now it's just a matter of dressing her up, maybe touching up the paint a little bit, and she's done! I am super happy with the result. It's as close as I could get to her actual design. Obviously, the body type and some of the facial features are not 100% accurate, but it is what it is. She still turned out really nice. I wanted to make Cat for a while, like I said. She's from a different story than Elsa and Bonnie though, so I feel like she needs a friend. Or her girlfriend. We'll see. I still need to make the lore video for that story. But that's all from me for now. Thank you so much for watching, hope you enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe, all that. Check out my other socials, they'll be on the screen and in the description. Stay safe, and I'll see you in another video. Bye!